Hello, my name is Reverend Dr. May Elise Cannon. Today is Friday. It's April 11th of 2025. Today is day 553. I'm currently in Jerusalem. I just got here today, occupied East Jerusalem specifically. And I hope over the next few days to give you specific updates from here on the ground in Palestine and Israel. I thought I would start with a few updates from Gaza. Israel is including Rafah in its security zones in Gaza, according to the defense minister in Israel. According to the UN, 2/3 of Gaza has been designated a no-go zone, 2/3 of Gaza. And that means they're either placed under evacuation orders or they're considered closed off because of military reasons. That's happened since the start of Israel's renewed offensive. And no-go zones means that if people go there, they will be, they're vulnerable to being shot by the military. We're getting closer to a deal to free the remaining hostages and reestablish the ceasefire. So that was just said by President Trump yesterday. Israeli officials said that the likelihood of reaching a deal in the next 2 weeks has increased significantly, but there are gaps that remain. My understanding of what's on the table is the idea of a 40 to 50 day temporary ceasefire that would allow parties to have some time to kind of enter into those phase 2 longer types of mediation. The big question is, if we have a temporary ceasefire, would they then progress beyond those days? But it is so desperately needed. Food, other supplies are still completely cut off from Gaza. Now listen to this. The Israeli military fired Air Force reservists who called for the return of hostages, even if the move required an immediate ceasefire. This was a statement from the IDF. The letter was published yesterday. Hundreds of Air Force reservists and retirees argued that the IDF is fighting a war that, quote, mainly serves political and personal interests and not security interests. This is literally members of the Israeli security establishment saying this. Personally, I fundamentally agree. The Israeli government's increased involvement in the hostage release and ceasefire talks has caused significant difference in momentum from when Israel's negotiating team was led by the intelligence chiefs, David Barnea and Ronen Bar, according to sources involved in the talks. So the government is now directly involved as opposed to the intelligence chiefs. You'll recall that Ronen Bar was the one that Netanyahu fired. He fired him around that whole Qatar Gate incident. There's a question in the Israeli courts about whether or not that's going to be allowed to proceed. In Jerusalem here, Israel ordered the close of 6 United Nations schools in East Jerusalem after raids. These were UNRWA schools. They have 30 days to close. The UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees, UNRWA, said approximately 800 students will be directly impacted by the closure of UNRWA schools, and they might, students who go there might not be able to finish the school year. Now, just understand, one of the options is, these students could go to Jerusalem schools or Israeli schools, but they're Palestinian students, and Israeli schools obviously are taught in Hebrew. So this is really a major, major crisis. In Israel, I talked about the letter. The Times of Israel about that letter said that the group was 1,000 veterans of the Israeli Air Force. The vast majority of them were in retirement. So that came up in the news quite a bit. Now, shifting to Iran. The U.S. and Iran are supposed to be going into negotiations tomorrow. Most recently, our Secretary of State, Rubio, said that there are going to be direct negotiations. That's happening in Oman. The talks are related to Iran's nuclear disarmament. According to the New York Times, Iranians hope for the agreement to be like the one they had under President Obama in 2015. Such as giving up fuel stockpiles but retaining fuel-making capability. Trump's nuclear or national security advisor says a deal would require full dismantlement of the nuclear program, along with the ability to make missiles or support terror groups. Netanyahu says that Iranians must, quote, blow up their facilities under American supervision. I'm not an Iranian expert, but I feel like that's completely an unrealistic expectation of Iran at this point. But after denouncing the 2015 deal, Trump will be under pressure to get a better one that prevents Iran from rebuilding. The most likely outcome from this weekend is that the two sides will define what topics the negotiation is specifically about. Trump refused on Wednesday to say how long the talks would take. American officials said that they're determined not to get stuck quibbling over every facility, timeline, or verification of compliance. The news reported today that Iran wants to explore concluding an interim nuclear agreement during negotiations, and their red lines include threatening language and excessive demands on the nuclear program and Iranian defense industry. I'm sorry that almost made me laugh because I feel like everything that comes out of Washington, D.C. this day is threatening language or excessive demands. But it's a little bit late here in Jerusalem, so I apologize. Tehran's semi-official news agency reported that. Shifting to Syria, Turkey and Israel have started talks to diffuse growing tensions over influence in Syria. The governments of both countries confirmed this. They're meeting between military and security officials, and that happened in Azerbaijan. And Syrian Kurds are set to demand a federal system to the post-Assad Syria that would give them regional autonomy and security forces, according to a senior official. So I would imagine that's in the Northeast. You know, there's these different divisions of Syria, and the current government really does not have control of all of the different segments of Syria. In the U.S., the Senate earlier today voted 60-25 to confirm the retired Lieutenant General Dan Caine, C-A-I-N-E, as the next chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. There was a vacancy because of a firing of General Charles Brown, and it is official. I've been asked this several times, and I knew that there were initial hearings, but Mike Huckabee is officially the new U.S. ambassador to Israel. He's an evangelical Christian. He had a talk show. He's the former Arkansas governor. He's a fervent supporter of the state of Israel. He strongly backs Jewish settlements in the Palestinian territories, which of course are illegal according to international law. He also is the one who said that Palestinians don't exist. Now, perhaps his perspective has changed in that regard. We will pray and work to that end. Netanyahu said this is a great day for the Israeli-American alliance. That vote was 53-46, supporting Huckabee. It was pretty much along party lines. Only one Democrat, John Fetterman, voted to support Huckabee's confirmation. Now, as I shared yesterday, the Trump administration is seeking to deport a Columbia University student. This is Mahmoud Khalil, over his actions and impact on the significant foreign policy objective of combating anti-Semitism. This was the memo that was sent by Marco Rubio. The memo stated that his activities were lawful, and they're not even alleging he committed a crime, but that his attitudes and his perspective is a foreign policy risk. So today, a Louisiana judge ruled that Mahmoud Khalil is eligible for deportation based on his beliefs. Now, that doesn't mean he will be deported. There's lots of legal hurdles, but that happened today. The ruling is far from the final word on whether or not he will be deported. The House Committee on Education and the Workforce yesterday dropped a probe against Northwestern University over its law school. It was representing a pro-Palestinian protesters. The lawyer representing the committee said that case was dropped. I wanted to let you know CMEP put out a public statement today about the killing of the 14-year-old American Palestinian Amir Rabi. He was killed in the West Bank. The community where he was located said that he was picking almonds from trees. The IDF said that he was throwing stones at cars. He was 14 years old and shot and killed. So I'd encourage you to read CMEP's statement calling on the United States for an investigation and accountability. We also put out a press release about my trip to Egypt that happened just a couple of days ago, April 5th through 8th. If you're interested in the religious and political leaders I met with, you can see that in our press release. In all of our meetings, we've been calling for an immediate comprehensive ceasefire and an end to all violence. And at the heart of those meetings was a shared conviction that peace can only be achieved through the protection of human dignity for all people and the adherence to international rules-based order. I wanted to call you to prayer for two Palestinian Christians, Leon Nasser, who spent 10 months in Israeli jails. She has another court case on April 23rd. And please be in prayer for her, and then for Shadi Hori, who's a Palestinian Christian who in 2022 was 16. He was brutally beaten when he was detained. He has another court case coming up April 27th. So please add those dates to your calendar. Please be in prayer on their behalf. Call your members of Congress and let them know that those are two unjust cases and that we want to call on the Israeli government for those cases to be dropped. I wanted to let you know tonight I had the opportunity to stop by the Education Bookshop. This one was located at the American Colony in East Jerusalem. It's run by Mahmoud Muna. He spent 2 days in jail, detained by the Israeli police for the suspicion on selling books that contain incitement and support of terrorism. They sell my book, which is called A Land Full of God, just for the record. They sell academic books. They sell books on Palestinian perspectives, and they sell books on Israeli and Jewish perspectives. It's like this amazing academic bookshop. And it made me think of this quote by Oscar Wilde that says, "The books that the world calls immoral are books that show the world its shame." So we'll post a picture of me and Mahmoud at the bookshop. It was wonderful to see him and be with him. It's the first time I've seen him since his detention. I wanted to let you know that Haifa, there was the election of the first Arab rector. Now, rector in the academic setting in Israel means a chief academic officer. And her name was Muna Maroon. She was actually elected shortly after October in 2024. And she is a citizen of Israel. She's a part of what are called 48 Arabs or Palestinian citizens of the state of Israel. And she is the first member of Israel's Arab minority to ever hold a role at an Israeli university like this, right? This degree of significance. And so she identifies this as a message of hope. She's a Christian. She hails from a small Catholic village near Mount Carmel. Christians make up about 7% of the population in Israel proper. There was a great article about her in Vatican News today. And I just thought it was a really beautiful story. Maroon says her appointment was a message of hope that things can be different in Israel, that Jews and Arabs can succeed together and live together. May it be so. Finally, I wanted to let you know we're having Holy Week prayer, Churches for Middle East Peace. We're calling people to enter into a time of prayer and fasting next week during Holy Week, reflecting on love, sacrifice, and redemption every day starting April 14th through the 19th from 12:30 to 1 p.m. We'll have a guest. Most, I think, are from the Middle East, who will reflect on the life of Jesus and what Holy Week means in terms of our communal life together as followers of Christ. So join us for that online, pray with us, fast alongside of us as we continue to work toward peace together. May the Lord go before us. Amen.